Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show. This is your PGA Championship preview. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by Niall Lyons as we look ahead to the second major of the year. Now we'll get straight into it because we want to get through. We've got plenty to get through. You've got your selections and we'll talk through the market as well. PGA Championship this year is at Oak Hill, a course that we know fairly well. We saw Jason Duffner win a major there a decade or so ago, but fair to say the course has had some pretty major surgery since then and won't necessarily resemble the kind of tests that we saw back then. What do you make of what kind of player is needed to suit this track?
Yeah, not only the course has changed, but I think golf has changed a fair bit since 2013. Obviously, it's a Donald Ross design. It's been lengthened about 250 yards or so since 10 years ago. It's still kind of a similar test off the tee in which you kind of need to hit fairways, but there's been a fair amount of work done on the bunkering. I think the bunkers are going to be a real test this week. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out, actually. I think there's going to be more of a premium on accuracy than what there normally is. You know, obviously back in 2013, we saw like Duffner and Zach Johnson and David Toms and Jim Furyk make the top 10. I think it's going to be totally different this time around. Obviously, golf has changed. The big hitters dominate now. They make their gains from tee to green in a totally different way than what Furyk and the likes of Jason Duffner did. But nevertheless, I think there is going to be a premium on accuracy from the tee. You find them fairway bunkers on a normal PGA Tour setup, they provide plenty of opportunity to stop the ball near pins, but they look fierce this week. They really, really do, the fairway bunkers. So I think you're obviously looking towards the golfers who hit it long and straight. Rahm and Scheffler, the two ahead, the top of the market, do hit it reasonably straight, but there are straighter hitters in the game who still hit the ball pretty far these days. The straighter hitters aren't necessarily in the mold of Jim Furyk and Jason Duffner nowadays. So the course has changed. There's a lot of trees been removed as well, so maybe that suits the longer hitters a little bit more than what it did back in 2013. They'll be able to take on some different lines than what was available back then, but golf has changed primarily, I think, and I think we'll see a different type of winner this time around.
We've seen majors dominated by players at the top end of the market in recent years, and that was a trend that was nearly back this time last year with Mito Pereira blowing a lead on 18, hitting the ball in the water, opening the door for eventual winner Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris. Do you think that's a reflection of where golf is now, that we're seeing kind of better players winning these big tournaments, or is it just a quirk and actually we'll have triple figure major winners coming through soon?
As I said there just a minute or so ago, I think golf has changed since, this was last held here in 2013. And I think just the type of golfer who wins these events are obviously much more longer hitters than what they ever were. I don't remember when was the last type, a Jim Furyk type winner of a major championship. It just doesn't happen anymore. I think you just need, the game's changed so much that you need to hit the ball so far. In terms of quality of player, obviously you look at the trends and all. Obviously the world golf rankings are a bit skewed at the minute now, obviously with the Live Tour, but it's usually one of the top 30 golfers in the world when you look towards the trends. And it's difficult to see. Obviously the PGA Championship down the years has been the major where we've seen the most surprises. Obviously Mito Pereira nearly won. Mickelson was a big price winner as well, even though he had shown reasonable form in the lead-in. He played well in the Masters previous to that KO Island performance. So there's always signs there. I think even if we get a surprise winner this week, there will have been signs in recent weeks and months that they were capable of a performance like that.
For sure. Well, let's get into your tips now. And as I said, we'll come back and have a look at the top end of the market, because you've mainly swerved the top kind of 6 or 7 in the betting as it stands. We've got, looking through the oddschecker prices up on the grids now, Scottie, Scheffler and Jon Rahm are the 8-1 joint favourites. That 8-1 is with BetVictor, though, who are only a quarter of the 5. If you wanted the fancy prices, Paddy's paying 10 places, Coral and Betfair paying 12 places. You're looking at around the 15-2, 7-1 mark. Rory McIlroy is 14-1. Xander Schauffele, who's been tipped up by a fair few, is 18-1. Patrick Cantlay 20-1. Brooks Koepka 22-1. And then we get to the man who is your top headline selection. I am someone who's backed Tony Finau in so many majors over the last few years, and I backed him at Augusta, and I told myself, I'm done with this for the time being, and now I'm going to have to back him again because he's your main selection at best price 22-1. What makes you think Tony's going to go well?
Yeah, he was all the rage at the Masters a few weeks ago, and I was kind of surprised about how short he was going off for that tournament. And then it's difficult for guys like you who have backed him at Augusta to go in again. It's perfectly understandable. Just like the way I backed McIlroy at Augusta too, it would be very hard to go and back him in this, despite his credentials and obviously being a member here and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's just recent performances by Finau, and one in particular that really catches the eye. He's won at Donald Ross course before in Detroit last summer. He won a 26 under, winning the Rocket Mortgage. He was 5 shots clear of second place. The week before that, he won the 3M Open by 3 shots. In Houston later on that year, he won by 4 shots. And then again in Mexico a couple of weeks ago, he won by 4 shots. But it was the manner of that victory at Mexico 2 or 3 weeks ago that really catches the eye. He was 2 shots ahead of Jon Rahm heading into the final round. Birdied the first, got 3 shots clear, and Jon Rahm never got closer than 3 shots for the rest of the 17 holes, which is incredible to bat away the Spaniard in that form just so easily. And that's been it's been the interesting thing with Finau's wins. Just he's absolutely lapped the field in them, almost every single one. So I think the performances just point towards winning a major. This is his peak, just like Molinari winning the Open a couple of years ago. He had won, I think, was it the Rocket Mortgage just before the Open as well. Players just tend to peak, and you could strike them at the right time. And I think Finau was one of them. Obviously, I tipped him up at 25-1, shortened a little bit since, but he was obviously the nearly man on the PGA Tour for many years, and now he's won plenty. Kind of the nearly man in majors now. He's got a great record in majors too. He ranks inside the top 20 in scrambling from the bunker this year, which is interesting because if the green side bunkers are going to be a real test, a lot of them are well below the green, and you have to come up a steep face. He leads the Tour in strokes gained approach this season as well. So I just think he can't be far away. And when you think about it, 4 wins in his last 19 stroke play events, and he's sitting here at 25-1 this week, and at a test that really does suit because he hits the ball long, and he hits it for the longer hitters. He's one of the straightest as well. So yeah, I'm actually really, really excited about this one, to be fair. I think that this might come as an outlandish statement, but I think he should be close to Rory McIlroy in the betting.
Wow. Said he was too short for Masters, and now saying he should be close to Rory. We'll get on to Rory in a bit because obviously his preparation for this hasn't been great, and we will come on to that at the end of your selections, so you can justify that statement then. But the second selection is a man I've already mentioned here, who, as I said, has been very popular. You're not the only around who's put him up. We've got Xander Schauffele, who's now best price 18-1. Short is 11-1 with the Betfair Sportsbook, which shows the level of support he's coming in for. What makes you think Xander is going to be suited by the test this weekend?
Did you just say as short as 11-1?
11-1 with Betfair Sportsbook, yeah. 14-1, 12-1 places, yeah.
I hadn't seen that. That is unbelievable. But yeah, he's just one of the most consistent golfers in the game, and his runner-up last time out at Quail Hollow was met with plenty of he's let another opportunity slip through his fingers, and there's no doubt that he has let some tournaments slip down the last couple of years. But nevertheless, he's still one of the most consistent. He's got 2 in the space of time that Tony Finau has his 4 wins. He has 2 wins. They did come last summer. He hasn't won this year yet. But outside of the 2 wins, he's got 6 more top 5 finishes than Tony Finau. So I think he comes in as one of the form guys as well. Obviously, his recent performances have been unbelievable. He was a beaten quarterfinalist in the match play, 10th at the Masters, 4th at Harbour Town, then 4th in the team event at New Orleans, and then obviously runner-up to Wyndham Clark last time at Quail Hollow. But he's just got everything for this test, and I've been waiting to play him. I played him at the Masters too, but I've been waiting to play him at a more strategic major venue, and I think this is perfect for him. It's one of the reasons why I backed him at Carnoustie a few years ago, because that was one of the places where you were hitting the ball long and straight was a real advantage. This is gonna play differently to, like, say, Winged Foot a couple of years ago where Bryson DeChambeau won the US Open. This isn't the type of course that you're going to bomb and gouge your way to victory. There's just no way. Even with softer conditions and colder conditions, the greens might not get as firm. But if you're coming in from the rough or the fairway bunkers, I think it's going to be a really tough test. So he hits the ball long and straight. Obviously, from about 170 yards plus, he's one of the best long iron players in the game. And obviously, his record in majors is absolutely outstanding without winning one. 6 top 5s. Another 3 top 10s and a further 6 top 20s. So he's never usually out of the frame. Only 5 majors out of the 20 that he's played, he's been outside the top 20. So yeah, around 20 to 1, 22 to 1 this week, I thought was another really good bet. I can see him going really well. He just looks primed to win one. Recent performances have been absolutely excellent without winning. So not quite as excited about him as what I am about Tony Finau's price, but nevertheless, I see him as one of the most likely winners outside of the top couple.
Yeah, there you go. The second selection, Xander Schauffele, who, as I mentioned, been well supported in the market there. She was 11 to 1, but still a bit of 18 to 1 around. Both 3 point each way selections there for Niall, the 2 headline selections. 2 point each way, the next one. A double major winner already in Collin Morikawa, and he said he wanted someone who hit the ball straight. Well, there aren't many who hit the ball straighter than Collin, especially with an iron in his hand. Must fancy him to go pretty well here if he can. Always, it feels like with Collin, you're taking a bit of a risk on what kind of a putting week he's going to have, because he can be very good, and sometimes the flat stick doesn't really work out for him.
Yeah, to be fair, he's been a lot more consistent in majors with a putter than you know what his regular PGA Tour performances, and they've littered his recent performances. To be fair, at Harbour Town, he had a really good week ball striking, poor on the greens again. He was really good with his irons at Quail Hollow too. One of the best in the field through a couple of days there, but missed a cut. It was a really bad performance on the greens that week. So yeah, as ever with Collin, you're hoping for a good week in the greens, but they do tend to come in major championships for him. He definitely does have a better record on the greens in major championships. So very rarely out of the frame too. Since 2021, he's only had 2 majors outside the top 10, which is incredible. The latest coming at the Masters a number of weeks ago, tied 10th, and Augusta doesn't really suit him because his chipping comes under real pressure there. But I think the course will suit him. He doesn't hit the ball as far as the other guys on the staking plan this week, and that is the slight worry that he'll be under pressure from a long way out. But nevertheless, he's one of the best long players in the game and one of the most accurate at that too. So I think just he'll avoid plenty of the trouble this week. He's definitely coming here with not as good as form as the others that I'm backing, and even others around the same price tag that I'm not backing. But his ball striking is as good as Nick as anyone around the same price bracket. So I'm happy enough for that, and to take the chance that he puts well. If it comes down to ball striking this week off the tee and on approach, just avoiding all that trouble, he's more than capable. And yeah, you just got to hope that he puts well on the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Collin Morikawa, the next selection at 2 points each way. Collin, you put him up at 33 to 1. I think that 33s is still just about there. I'm just getting the page up now, and yeah, 33 to 1 pretty much across the board. So 33s still knocking around about Collin to get his 3rd major at still the pretty kind of infant stage of his career. Next up, you kind of talk us through on your piece up online on the oddschecker site, which I recommend people should go and watch, why certain players have been left off the staking plan. Jordan Spieth, of course, who's a massive price this week, but that's in part because of this wrist injury that looks like it might really derail his possible chances here. Hideki Matsuyama and Tyrrell Hatton, another couple too, and Max Homa being the one that you're most afraid of leaving off the list. So, what was it about those guys that had them kind of on the list, but not quite getting over the line?
It looks like the perfect test for Jordan Spieth, like, you know what I mean? And he drove the ball really good at Harbour Town, and under pressure when it mattered, he wasn't spraying the ball like he did when he spurned his opportunities, a few weeks previous to that. So it's just unfortunate that, Spieth comes here with injury worries, but Tyrrell Hatton, he's playing absolutely great stuff. I just don't know. His major record isn't great, and he hasn't really contended one down the back nine. So I'd rather wait until we see how he performs under that kind of pressure. Max Homa is obviously going to be really preferred in the US Open in California next time out. He'll be all the rage for that. But there's going to be colder conditions obviously this week. We're playing an East Coast major in May, so conditions will be definitely colder. It'll be tough to score during the morning wave, I think, especially on the Thursday and Friday. So if anyone's looking for a first round leader bet, and I will have a first round preview up later, either on Wednesday or early Thursday morning. I think a late tee time will suit that. Warmer conditions obviously makes it easier to score. But Max Homa, when he won at Potomac late on last year, it was wet and cold, and fairways were really difficult to hit. I think it was single figures under par that won that. And when fairways are hard to hit, Max Homa comes into his own. So he looks to have the perfect game for us. He's in good form too, but I can't just excuse the major form. It's a real worry.
Yeah.
Only one top 20 finish in 13 major championships since 2019. I think obviously previous major performances are one of the biggest pointers towards who may contend the following ones, and Max Homa just has zero experience down the stretch in these type of tests, so that would just worry me until he gets that. I think I'm going to steer clear, and if he doesn't perform well here, I think he's one to avoid, even in California, to be fair. So yeah, there's a few. Gary Woodland was another one. Absolutely unbelievable ball striking all season, but his short game has been a mess, especially his putting. But when he won at Pebble Beach, ball striking was a massive part of that equation. So yeah, he's another one, absolutely hitting the ball great, who at triple figures is a major worry to leave off the list. But you just got to hope for the best, and you hope that you've made the right decisions.
Interesting. Well, let's get on to your next selection. 3 more to come on the staking plan. And Sungjae Im, we're talking about quality ball strikers. They don't come much better than him. He's the next selection, 2 points each way, also at 33-1.
Yeah, he comes here from Korea. He went to Korea last week and won on the Korean PGA Tour, which it's a surprise to see him do that the week before a major championship. But nevertheless, Sungjae, and he plays an awful lot of golf. And if anyone can overcome the travel from that, arriving in New York this week, it's him, I guess. The manner in which he won could be important. He had a 40-yard bunker shot to the last, where he needed to get up and down to win, and he did. He stuck it to about 5 feet. It was an unbelievable golf shot, actually. But he's one of the best out of the bunkers. He's 14th from scrambling from the bunkers in the PGA Tour this season. He's also 20th in tour and driving accuracy. He hits the ball definitely not as long as the power hitters in the game, but he hits the ball far enough for a test like this. His iron play is absolutely tremendous too. He's definitely a wizard with the wedge, but he's more than capable from 170 yards, 5 yards plus, which is where the majority of approaches are going to come from this week. He's won at the Honda Classic too. We know there's a big atmosphere there at the Honda Classic. New York majors are always quite boisterous, always quite noisy towards the back nine. We remember Brooks Koepka winning a couple of years ago with the noise around that too. It's a great state for a major championship. But I think Sungjae's when they're at Honda Classic will hold them in good stead too. So perfect game for it. It remains to be seen whether he can deal with the pressure in a major championship. He does have a runner-up at Augusta. Obviously, it was to Dustin Johnson, and he was never really in contention, or it never really looked like beating him anyway. Not that he wasn't in contention, but he wasn't going to win that. But he's got another top 10 at the Masters too. I would like him to have a bit more experience down the heat of a battle down the back nine of a major, but nevertheless, he looks to have the perfect game for it. Because I definitely do think that the winner of this will have a bit more to his game than just gripping and ripping it. Obviously, the two main guys, Scheffler and Rahm, have that, nevertheless. But there's guys who hit the ball far and straight and who have a slightly more nuanced game than those guys, and I think they've got more of a chance this week than usual.
Yeah, well, a couple of guys, massive prices who are hoping to upset the recent trend of those at the top end winning it are Harris English and Adrian Meronk, who you put up 1 point each way English at 225 to 1, which does seem a huge price for someone who's definitely got the quality to compete at the highest level. And Meronk at 175 to 1, both available now, 200 to 1 and 250 to 1 best price. But again, those not necessarily the place terms that you want to be taking. What about their game makes you think that this test could suit?
Well, I'm surprised the bookies weren't alive more to Harris English's chances this week, to be fair. Sitting there 200 to 1 plus at the start of the week, especially having coming off a third place at Quail Hollow last time out. And he had second at the Arnold Palmer. He was a runner-up at Arnold Palmer earlier on in the year too. And we knew who fought out. That Arnold Palmer finish was unbelievable with the likes of Cantley and McIlroy all there. Spieth obviously too. It was a real war of attrition that down the back nine. So yeah, 2 top 3 finishes in his last 6 starts in stacked fields as well, it must be said. And then you look at his major record. I couldn't believe his record. 7 made cuts from 7 in US Open Championships and 5 from 6 in PGA Championships. It's an unbelievable record for someone who hasn't, sat at the top of the game. So, I think he's a real dark horse this week. He doesn't hit the ball as far as any of the others in the team. He's probably the shortest priced or the shortest hitter in mistaken plan, but he's accurate. He's got a decent approach game, and he's got a better short game probably than the others that have backed. So if it does come down to a bit of scrambling, I think he's more than capable of doing that. Meronk is, obviously riding the crest of a wave after his win in Italy, and he looks set now for a Ryder Cup place later on in the year. Winning at the Ryder Cup venue, he's a big feather in the cap. But he won the Australian Open too last December, holding off Minwoo Lee and Adam Scott. Won the Irish Open previous to that too. So he's won 3 prestigious championships in the last 12 months. And he's one of the best drivers in the European game. He hits the ball long and he hits it straight. So he's going to find himself in better positions than most off the tee. His iron play isn't as good as plenty of others in the field, but his short game more than makes up for it. And we've seen that last time out. His irons actually weren't the best in the Italian Open when he won, but he saved it with his scrambling. His work on and around the greens was tremendous. But if he can hit the ball long and straight, which he does, he'll find chances here, I think, at Oak Hill. And he's obviously in great form and just one of the Europeans who I think could figure on the leaderboard over the weekend.
Yeah, 2 big outsiders there, as I say, both 200 to 1 and 250 to 1 now, Meronk and English. But if you want the big places, you want to shop around using the odds checker grids. Harris English now 200 to 1 best price. You can get 8 places there, which is still pretty good. And Meronk, if you want to be backing him, that 250 to 1 is a quarter of the 5 or 10 bet. But 200 to 1 you can still get pretty readily with 8 places. Bet365. Sky bet that 175 to 1 with Paddy's is still there too. Those are your 6 selections there in the staking plan. But before we let you go, just want to kind of talk through those at the top end, because I'm sure a lot of people listening we'll want to know your thoughts. Joint favourites in Scottie Scheffler, who had one of the, I would say, most intriguing major weekends I think I've ever seen, Augusta, where he led the field tee to green, strokes gained, and was bottom of the whole field for strokes gained putting. So he was the best player in the whole field until he got on the green, and then he was the worst player in terms of the flat stick. He seems to have improved his putting a little bit since then. And then, of course, Jon Rahm, who did what I think we all knew he was going to do at some point, Augusta, and race clear and win the green jacket fairly easily. What do you make of their chances coming to this weekend?
Yeah, obviously both huge chances. Difficult to pick between them, to be fair. Scheffler probably hits it a bit straighter than what Rahm does in general. I think accuracy off the tee will become an issue across the week, avoiding them fairway bunkers. So maybe I would prefer Scheffler slightly to Rahm. But the putting, as you say, is an issue, and it's seeped into his game a fair bit over the last 12 months or so. And obviously, you said at the Masters, it was somewhat. It's just hard to believe. And obviously, this is his worst year so far on tour in his 4 seasons on the greens. So it's a slight worry. Obviously, I don't think putting's going to be the biggest aspect, when you look at the stats to who wins this week. But long game's just hard. How do you say anything negative about these two guys?
I know.
It's hard to believe. Picking between them at around the 7-1 mark is extremely difficult. And but the one thing I would say is that I think accuracy off the tee is going to count for a lot this week, and avoiding fairway and greenside bunkers. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how these bunkers play out. I think it's going to be the talking point of the week. And those who can scramble well from them or avoid them, I think they're going to have a huge chance. And I think there's probably others in the game, other than Rahm and Scheffler, who can perform slightly better in that department, slightly more strategic off the tee and slightly less aggressive maybe on approach shots too. I just think it's probably a week to take the front two on. McIlroy is obviously another one, as you say. We're getting a few points bigger this week, obviously. Yeah, I think there's upwards of 12-1 available. But there was a worry last time out at Quail Hollow. Obviously, he took a couple of weeks off after the Masters. And it's no surprise. It was a massive, massive disappointment for him. And he was probably a little bit burnt out considering the designated events that he's had to play, obviously, but obliged to play in the run-up. He obviously skipped one after the Masters then, but there's slight negatives there. Obviously, he's a member here. He lives near here too, so we can obviously we can assume that he's played it a fair bit more than others, and he could come in well prepped. It's the type of thing McIlroy could do, is come and win this, isn't it? When he's least expected to. Obviously, when he blew the Masters all them years ago, nobody expected him to go out and win the US Open next time out. You know what I mean? This just be like McIlroy to go and do this. But he hasn't drifted to a big enough price for me to justify backing him, I don't think. And I think he's a bit wild off the tee here, and I think he could find himself in a few fairway bunkers, which would worry me a little. And as I say, I just think there's a few more in the game who's slightly more nuanced in coping with this track.
And then in terms of a couple more just in beneath, Patrick Cantlay has been put up, I've seen, by a couple here. I know he's a player that you have said you will not be backing in majors until you see something different from him. Can you see why he might prove popular?
I can see why people think the course is absolutely set up for him. But his performances of major are still drab. 14th at the Masters. Obviously, it was a disappointment. He was right there, really. Heading into the final round, he could have been one of the ones who came from behind, but another disappointing finish. And obviously, 14th, 8th and 14th in his last 3 majors have been a bit better than usual, but he can win at 20-1 for all he likes. I won't be annoyed that I'm not on for someone like him But if you miss Tony Finau at 25-1, given what he's done in the game in the last number of months, compared to Cantlay, obviously Cantlay won the in the BMW Championship and all in the playoffs last season, but Finau has elevated his game to a totally different level to the point now where I think he's a better player than Patrick Cantlay, and Patrick Cantlay hasn't shown an awful lot in majors for his talent. I do think the test suits him, mind you. Obviously a great driver of the golf ball, reasonably straight as well. Great approach player. He has everything. He's a really good all-rounder. Whilst the likes of McIlroy can be a bit more wild off the tee, Rahm can be a bit more wild off the tee. Cantlay's definitely more consistent. But again, at 20-1, he's nowhere near big enough to excite me.
Great stuff. Any others you want to point out? Justin Thomas, last year's winner, Jason Day, fresh off a victory, Brooks Koepka after his run at the Masters. Can you make a case for or against any of these? Anyone that you would say you'd actively look to swerve at the top end of the market?
Well, as far as the live guys are concerned, guys like Mickelson and Reed, etc. Mickelson obviously was unbelievable there at the weekend of the Masters, but he was never in contention. Reed was never in contention. And obviously Brooks Koepka had a couple of shot lead heading in the final day, failed miserably. So I think there's still plenty of negatives surrounding the live guys. Dustin Johnson obviously comes here off the back of a win, but I watched a fair bit of it, and he was quite poor, especially over the back nine. He had it won. I think he had a 5-shot lead with about 7 or 8 holes to go. Almost blew it. So I'd still really look to be avoiding the live guys. None of them interest me. I think Koepka's very, very short. The one who interested me the most probably was Bryson DeChambeau. DeChambeau played well last week, showed a fair bit of form. So if he comes back to form, he's someone who could cope with this test, even though he's too wild off the tee, I would say. But if we arrived at a winged foot or whatever, one of those places where you could bomb and gouge your way to victory, I would definitely be more interested in DeChambeau. No one really. I think we've mentioned a lot towards the market or towards the top. Victor Hovland has been a fair disappointment now. Playing in the final group at St Andrews didn't work out for him. Played in the second last group on the Sunday in the Masters. Only 3 shots behind Brooks Koepka and was awful again, final 18. So that's 2 opportunities spurned for him, and I thought he would have learned from the Open Championship, and he didn't really. I was disappointed in that, so I think he's quite easy to swerve. One was looking down, it was actually just an extra market further on down the leaderboard, top lefty. I think there's 9-4 out there about Bob McIntyre. He's up against Mickelson and Brian Harman. And McIntyre has made 10 of 10 cuts in major championships. And I think if he makes a cut here, he could easily win that market at 9-4. There's only the 3. Now he comes here off a slight back concern. He pulled out of the Italian Open after 1 round. But he's had a couple of weeks off now and arrives at a venue which really should suit his driving capabilities. If he drives the ball well, I think he could play quite well if he's injury free. So, but the 9-4 in the top lefty market against Harman and Mickelson stands out to me, considering he's 10 from 10 in majors.
Great stuff. Yeah, 9-4 there. About in the top lefty market, loads of those special markets up on the oddschecker site if you go and check those out. And I'm sure, Niall, you said you're going to put out a first round leader. There'll be other stuff coming out throughout the week. So do download the oddschecker app where you can find Niall's tips first there, and you can find them online as well. Just to recap the staking plan, it is Tony Finau, 3 points each way. Xander Schauffele, 3 points each way as well. Collin Morikawa, 2 points each way. 2 points each way, Sungjae Im, and then a point each way, Harris English, and 0.75 points each way, Adrian Marunk. Anything to add, Niall, before we go?
Who are you backing?
I wasn't going to say. So I backed 2 at fair prices. I mean, I'm pretty tempted to, with the fancy prices around, to back Scheffler at kind of 8 to 1, 15 to 2 at 10 places, because I just can't really see a world where his game tee to green doesn't have conversation. But the 2 that I have backed to bigger prices are Tommy Fleetwood and Ricky Fowler. Both of them basically playing ridiculously consistent golf. Both of them hit the ball further than most on the tour. Both of them very accurate off the tee. Hoping that one of them. I mean, it feels like I'm living in 2015 by backing those two, but we'll see how we go. Anything? Can you put me off? It's too late anyway. But...
No, not really. But yeah.
I mean, Fowler's form coming into this is from the players is 13th, 17th, 10th, 15th, 14th in like fair fields. He's trending, and we know he's got the talent to do it, and he's hitting the ball far for him as well.
Yeah. No, I can't really put you on. What price is Fowler? What price did you get about Fowler?
66.
I'm not too enthused, but we'll see how it goes.
And Tommy 66 as well. Just to, anyway, no one cares. So there we go. Cheers, Niall, for making me expose myself to tips you hate. Normally, I mean, in recent years, you've been a bit more, a bit more encouraging, but clearly not there.
If you're not on Finau, you're not on the winner. So that's.
Don't you worry. So, you know full well that I'll be back in Tony before Thursday afternoon, and it all kicks off. Cheers very much, as ever, Niall, for sharing your tips with us. And yeah, we'll look forward to reading your stuff over the course of the weekend. Fingers crossed, a couple of winners in there. Enjoy the PGA Championship. Plenty to get stuck into there. I'm sure Niall has flagged all the value, and we will look forward to the weekend. So fingers crossed for a couple of winners. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel where you can find all these oddschecker betting shows. I'll be back later in the week with Andy Holding as we preview the racing from York. So make sure you subscribe, download the oddschecker app, and we'll see you soon. Please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.